Welcome to the seance room, where we connect with our dearly departed family members and friends, and the occasional office ghost. So, in today's episode, I get a whole bunch of questions, so I'm just gonna talk about me without sounding egotistical. Yeah. So, one of the questions that was asked was, how old were you when you were able to see ghosts? How old was I? Okay, so I'm going to take a wild guess because there are certain things I don't remember from my childhood. I started seeing them more frequent when I had turned 16. Now, before that, occasionally I would hear something, like somebody call my name, and I turn around and nobody was there. I used to get that a lot. But seeing them, I was about 16? Between 15 and 17 is when I actually would see them. Another question was, how do you handle the ghosts in your home? Well, I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of activity. You would hear things move in my parents' house. And, it's like, okay, whatever. There would be footsteps. You'd hear things just open and close. Your normal stuff. Well, normal for us, not normal for the normal people. But then again, what is normal? Anyways, but my parents' house is easy to deal with. Excuse me, I yawned. When I lived in my first apartment, that was interesting because it was easy to deal with them, but for the non-believer that lived with me, yeah, that was difficult for them. Because it would be a constant phone call. Denise, there's something moving in the kitchen. Denise, there's something moving in the closet. Denise, this, Denise, that. And one, it'd get annoying real quick. And two, it would just freak this person out. To me, it's funny. It's hilarious. And I would be sitting in the living room and they, like there's something in here, the pot moved and this moved, that moved. And I go, well, ask them. What do you want me to do about it? And that would be my answer. It's like, what do you want me to do? They're trying to get a hold of you, not me. They would have been over here, trying to get my attention, but apparently they're getting your attention. In that apartment, there was a lot of banging on the closet doors and a lot of pots and pans moving and falling in the kitchen. Now, a lot of you are going to be like, Denise, you just probably put it too close to the edge and the pan/pot fell. Well, let me tell you. I had one of those racks, shelving racks, and the pots and pans were always on the second level, the second tier from the top. Excuse me, yawned again. And they were in the middle. So for the only way those pots and pans could move or could fall is if that whole rack system was being shook. Okay? So, again, pots and pans, second level, middle. Somebody would have to literally physically shake that thing so the pots can move. And one day, I was in the living room, and the person that was living with me was in the kitchen, and they had something fall, and they, of course, freaked out, and they became this scary cat. There was a lot of stuff that would go on with his closet. The sliding doors would vibrate and would move. And again, this is an older apartment complex. Excuse. So everything, it was like cinder block walls and, things that would make it very difficult to shake and make things vibrate. The second location was, again, the demon house. I talked about that one yesterday, but somehow, someway it got uploaded today. Thank you, Anchor, for some delaying my upload. The third was an apartment, and that's, excuse me, for some reason I'm getting very, very, very sleepy. That one was interesting. That's the place that had it sounded like keys. Somebody was trying to open the door and there was nobody on the other side. My dogs, Beastmaster and Demon Dog, would be barking at the door, or they would go sit by the door as if somebody was on the other side trying to come in. And I would look and there was nobody there, but they would be sitting there no matter what. So that one. The ceiling the ceiling fan would turn on, and that one had a switch where you had to move up and down. It's like a dimmer switch to, like to turn it on, you moved it up a notch to, to make it spin, to make it go slow, medium, and fast. So, but you had to physically move the switch up and down. That was for the ceiling fan. All the other switches, you had to push the top or push the bottom to turn it on and off. And there was one night that I was asleep in the bedroom, and all the lights were off, and I had the bedroom door open, and Demon Dog and Beastmaster were in the cage, the big cage that I have for them, because that's where they would sleep at night. Because Demon Dog likes to destroy everything. And was in bed trying to sleep, and then all you hear is the click, and the living room light / dining room light turned on. And it had to be after midnight, because it was after midnight the light turned on. So I get up and go and turn it off, and you would hear if you would be asleep in the living room, or take a nap in the living room, you'd hear somebody walking in the living room, but like they're walking in slippers and they're dragging their feet across the floor. You would hear that. One time I had woken up to do my makeup, like to get ready for work. I did my makeup and I walked into the kitchen and all the cupboard doors were open. So I go and I close them all right, and I go back, finish getting ready, and then I walk back into the kitchen to get my stuff, and all the cupboard doors were open. So for me, I would typically tell them, you know what, I don't got time for this. Don't touch anything. If you got a message, you know the routine. But they would like to fuck around with the blinds. They would move the blinds, and that would get Demon Dog and Beastmaster crazy. They'd drive them fucking crazy, to the point where I literally would threaten whoever was there. It's like, don't make me call them, don't make me get my grandpa. And things would stop. Now, that's the third apartment. The fourth apartment is a bit interesting. Beastmaster has never ever crawled under the bed. She's not the type of dog that will crawl under the bed. But for some apparent fucking reason, when I moved into this apartment, she will not get on top of the bed. I mean, like, she's my ESA dog, so she is my therapeutic dog. She used to be on her A game when I was having my episodes. If I was going up, or as if I was coming down, or if I was starting an episode, she'd be right on it. She'd be like, bam, 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 quick. Like wherever I was, like my other apartment, she would sleep on the bed with me no matter what. Here, she does the opposite. She sleeps under the bed. And you can't get her from under the bed. There's like no way you can get her out. So I'm assuming that there's something here that is somewhat scaring her. She likes to hide under the bed, or she'll hide in the bathroom, which is weird. Demon Dog, he likes to bark at the corner of my bedroom. So if I'm laying in bed, it'll be the right side of my bed, up in the corner. He'll sit there and he'll bark. He'll jump on the bed and look at the corner and bark. And one night, I was asleep and he started barking. He was in bed, and so was Beastmaster, and we were all sleeping in bed, and he started to bark. Like, I mean, to the point where he jumped over me and his hair stood straight up and he started barking in the corner. And of course, it was getting annoying. It was frustrating and it was irritating me. So I was like, whatever is here, you are in my space. Get the fuck out and don't come. And I said it so fucking pissed. Like, I was pissed. I was angry. I was like full of rage. And he stopped barking. He jumped over me and he crawled under the blankets. And then he went to sleep. So everywhere I've lived, I've had some type of activity, and it doesn't bother me at all. Like, it doesn't faze me. Because most of the time I can tell by the energy. Sometimes, it's questionable. So when it's questionable energy, I just, like call my grandfather and have him come and stand next to me. Um, but yeah, so it doesn't answer the question. I rambled on. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't faze me. Like I said, I grew up with it, so it is what it is. I'm not going to talk about religion. If you actually want to know what religion I practice, you can send me a message on the podcast page, What the Paranormal, on Twitter, What the Paranormal, Facebook. You know the connections. So if you want to know about my religion, then by all means hit me up that way. But I'm not going to discuss it because a lot of people will, get pissed off and shit like that. So I'm not going to do it. Next question is, does everybody in your family interact with ghosts? The answer to that is yes. Everybody in my family has at one point in our existence interacted with ghosts. I have a sister who does tarot card readings. I think she does tarot card readings. She does Corey shell readings. She does cleansings. So, and then we all have spirit guides. I believe, I may be wrong. My sister has a male spirit guide. My brother has a little girl spirit guide. I have a slave. I do not know what my other sister, my nieces have, because we really don't talk about it much. But I know one of them has a male. My brother has a little girl, and then I have a slave, a black slave. He's about 300 years old, give or take. My parents also, a lot of this stuff we get from our parents, or from my parents, and then from their families. So it kind of like, it just goes with the family. And we've noticed that it is more predominant in my siblings, and then it kind of like skips. So yeah. And then next question. Yeah. Okay, next question is, have you been to a haunted cemetery? And the answer is yes. I've been to a couple cemeteries, and I've done a couple EVPs at a lot of cemeteries. I've done one at the cemetery. I talked about it in my San Diego episode. I've been to that one, and yes, you see things and you hear things. I've done one in Idaho, which I should have mentioned when I did the old penitentiary episode, but I didn't. I did one there, and then I did a couple. I did one at Rose Hills. I did one in East Los Angeles. I did one in LA called the Evergreen. I went with my friend Sue. We didn't do any EVPs, but I got picked up a lot of things. That's where the Van Noens, the Lancashires, and the founding people of Los Angeles, per se, the rich people, were buried. The Van Burens. So yeah, the people with streets named after them. That's who's buried there. Let's see. I've done a couple other old cemeteries. I hit a couple in Riverside. there was this one cemetery in Idaho that I did that was supposedly old Native American. It, it was not kept. It was like at the bases of these hills, and it was not kept up. It was not maintained. It was just falling apart. And me, being me, I, got out of the car, and it was at night, and I sat, on the outside of the cemetery, and as I was sitting there, I closed my eyes, had my recorder on, and I was like, all right, anybody here who would like to talk, please make your presence known. And Idaho's not known for quakes, so I'm sitting there and the ground is vibrating, and I'm like, shit, I'm way out in the boondocks and we're having a quake. And you could hear it on the recorder where I go, shit, quake, and you hear me move. So after the vibration stopped, I went back, I sat down, and I was like, all right, if you're here and you want to talk, by all means, please talk into this device I have in front of me. I mean you no harm. I'm just a curious person. So, me, sat there for a couple minutes. Then I got up and I walked around. It's still, with the recorder, and I would always mention on the recorder, I'm walking around, I'm moving. So if somebody was listening to it, they would know that I was the one moving and it wasn't something different. So I walked toward the entrance of the cemetery, and I stood there and I put my hand through the gate, which I shouldn't have, but I did. And as soon as I did that, I heard a horse. Now, this cemetery is, again, it's falling apart. I still respect it because it still has a no trespassing sign. And it's like leads up to a hill. So I put my hand through it, and you could hear a horse in the background. And then you hear these Indian cries. But you could faint, like they were like distant. But then, I'm like, all right, cool, whatever, I'm done. It's getting late. My buddy's going to be, curious as to, one, I don't live in Idaho, so I don't know where the fuck I'm going. And two, I don't want to get back to his place, too late, and him be like, you got home at 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to go through that. So I went back, woke up the next morning, and we listened to the recording. And you hear me say quake, and you hear what sounded like a stampede, like horses running by. And then you hear little things. You hear native tribe members talking, but you couldn't hear. You couldn't hear it. But you could hear it on the playback. And then as soon as I got to the gate, I'm putting my hand through the gate because it was kind of tight, so I hit the sides, and I go, my hand's going through the gate, that's what you're hearing. And as I put it through the gate, you hear a horse neigh, you hear an Indian speak, and then you hear the horse ride off. And my friend was like, what the hell? Yeah, so I was like, okay, whatever, okay. And he was more surprised than I was. Next question. Favorite location to investigate? I've investigated the Hotel del Coronado with Sue and Oscar. We caught a image on the recorder. We left a video recording and of somebody walking next to Oscar and pushing his head down, and he woke up the next morning. He said, "Yeah, somebody was pushing me down." So we got that, and then on the recorder in the inside of the room, we hear something being dragged across the floor, and we hear like people running or screaming, and fire engines. And then, so me and Sue were sharing a bed, and I believe we caught a growl in the room, which we didn't hear, but the recorder picked it up. So, yeah. Another location that I do want to investigate would have to be Waverly Insane Asylum in Louisville, Kentucky. That's one place I would love to go. I'd love to go to Gettysburg. I have a friend who lives in Virginia who does the Civil War dress up bullshit. And yeah, he listens to the episodes and he's going to be like, "Why is it bullshit?" But yeah, the whole get up where you got to wear the wool outfit and all that shit. Yeah, that's too much for me. That's too much. So I would love to investigate that. They say that's super active, so I'm kind of wondering what I'd pick up from there. Let's see. I do want to go back to the Luxor, Excalibur, and Bally's, because I've had encounters of the paranormal in those hotels when I stayed in Vegas. So I would love to go back and do an investigation, and hopefully I can get an old acquaintance of mine who lives in Vegas, and maybe a couple friends to do an investigation. We'll see. That's somewhere down the line. Let me see. Another question. Okay, here's another one. Do you think that spirits attach themselves to the weak? I'm going to say yes, because they feed off of energy, and those that are not in a good mindset are easier for them to latch on. I've had a few encounters where in my depression, in my dark state of mind, I've had some encounters where not a possession, but more of dark thoughts that weren't mine, were manifesting. So I do believe that people that suffer from some type of mental illness, that they are easier to manipulate and easier to kind of take over, in my opinion. Next question. Dun 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 dun. That's my interpretation of the Jeopardy song. Okay, this one is kind of like it's not really a paranormal question, but I thought it was kind of interesting. It says, if you could bring back any Um, Historic figure, any uh, musician or actor, who would you be? Who would you bring back and why? So, I would most definitely bring back Janis Joplin, Freddie Mercury, and and my favorite Mexican wrestler, La Parca. And I would invite them all to dinner, and I would, pick at their brains and see what they what they think and what they would do. Oh, here's one from my buddy. Who's your favorite Mexican wrestler and why? And why do you prefer Mexican wrestling over American wrestling? Gee, let's see. I can never get into American wrestling for some reason, like the WWE, AEW, or WCW, or whatever independent circuit plus the WWE. I could just never get into it. I mean, I have my favorite wrestlers, Mr. Jabroni, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Undertaker will be my all-time favorite wrestlers. But for some reason, their matches just don't look and feel real to me. Yes, I know they are getting hurt. Yeah, I know some of them, tore this, tore that. I get it. But just, to me, those don't feel like real matches. They feel more staged in a way. And yeah, all wrestling is staged to a degree. And I'm probably going to get heat for this, but I don't care. But to me, the WWE's wrestling it feels staged. Now, I like AAA. They are predominantly known. They're like one of the two heavyweights in the Mexican wrestling because it's AAA, and then it's a CMLL. This is the Consejo Mundial de la Lucha Libre. It's, the commission of wrestling. And it kind of loses the translation in English. But I love saying it. Like, it just, never mind. So those two are the predominant wrestling heavyweights. So you have a lot of wrestlers that will either switch between each organization. But I grew up watching more of the AAA and a little bit of the CMLL. But like I said, to me, Mexican wrestling, I don't know why it is. It just seems that it's more no holds bar wrestling. It's like you're going to put somebody's head in between a folding chair and you're just going to go to town. And you're going to take a chair, you're going to take a ladder, and you're going to beat them to the bloody pulp where they're literally freaking bleeding and their masks are all torn and you can see the bleeding. I mean, you've had wrestlers who passed away in the ring. Silver King, brother to Dr. Wagner, son of Dr. Wagner. Dr. Wagner Jr. was Silver King's brother. He died in London in the ring. And then you have El Hijo del Perro Aguayo Jr. He also got a kick from Rey Mysterio, and something within the neck had happened to him during the match that the kick just did it. There's a lot of wrestlers who always say their little prayers when they go to a match, because they know that at any given moment they probably will not come back from a match. I just find Mexican wrestling um, more entertaining. I have my favorites, of course. La Parca, who passed away in January, he was probably 30, 40 years in the business. And he did a dive between the second and the third rope. Or well, if you go from top to bottom, it was between the first and the second rope. He went through the middle. And the guy on the outside wasn't, I guess, paying attention, or there's a miscalculation, and he hit the barrier, which happened to be, I believe, cinder block. So he fucked up his neck and everything, and that happened in October of 2019, and in January of this year he passed away. His brother also passed away, but he was not my favorite. Let's see. Another favorite of mine, I mean, like, you have El Hijo del Santos, you have Santos. You have El Santo. And he is, I mean, I watched all his fucking movies. This wrestler, that's another thing. Mexican wrestlers during the 50s and the 60s and the 70s jumped into the movie business, and they did their action movies. You had Santos contra las momias, you had Santos and Blue Demon contra los vampiros. You had all of these wrestlers. You had Mil Máscaras, you had Octagon, you had Atlantis. You had all these Mexican wrestlers that, they would take time off from wrestling to go make these movies, and that also helped project them to the next level. Sorry, I just love Mexican wrestling. And let's see, Super Porky was another one that I liked because he was funny. There was a La Parca, Super Porky. Who else? Yeah, would be those two. Those three. Oh, and Blue Demon, which was the Blue Demon. In Spanish, it would be, his name would be El Demonio Azul. But his ring name is Blue Demon. I named my car after him. I had a white Corolla that I named El Hijo de Santos, and then now I have a blue CHR, and I call him El Demonio Azul. There's a pattern with me naming my cars after wrestlers. So to answer your question, buddy, La Parca is my all-time favorite. He is the dude, the bomb. He entertained everybody. Don't get him confused with L.A. Parca. That's a different wrestler. There's two. And then you have all of the sons of La Parca, L.A. Parca, and then you have La Parca. It's La, L-A, as in one word, La. Okay, enough of that. Sorry, I rambled. Once I get on a topic I like, I rambled in. You'd figure I'd be rambling about paranormal, which sometimes I do. But when it comes to Mexican wrestling, fuck it. I watch all the Mexican wrestling on YouTube and Twitch and shit. Fuck it. That's what I do. That's how I spend my time. Let's see, one more, because I'm at 40 minutes. Favorite horror movie? Oh, that's a good one. Well, I don't have favorites. I have a lot of them that I like. I love Halloween. I love the first one. All the rest of them were kind of getting. I don't like the sequels or the prequels. I like the original for all the movies. Like Nightmare on Elm Street, I love the original one. Everything else, it was a waste of time. The only movie franchise that I found to annoy the fuck out of me was the Friday the 13th franchise. That I could not get into for the life of me. I don't know how hard, I just can't get into it. But the Halloween series, Long Live Michael Myers, and Friday the 13th, no, I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street are the two that I like, that are up there. The Paranormal Activity movies, yeah, no, those don't do a thing for me. A lot of horror movies from Thailand and Japan, I love. I just love them. And there's a whole genre on Netflix that you can actually see, so I love those. But yeah, I don't have a favorite. That's why my theme song for my podcast is a little bit of Halloween and some other dark stuff. But I like Halloween so much. I love Michael Myers so much that I kind of asked the creator who composed my my theme song, because I had it specially made for my podcast, to give me something with like a dub step in it, with something similar in feel to Halloween. And that's what he gave me, in which I really loved. And I got a lot of compliments on my theme song. So yes, thank you very much. That is going to be all the questions for today. I'm at 42 minutes. Wow. I talk a lot. But there's a whole bunch of empty air in between there. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share, follow us on all our social media, Facebook, YouTube, because we're on YouTube. Well, the audio's on YouTube. I haven't quite got to the point with putting a video up. I may do that. I may put a video up, but I'm not sure, because I make all these retarded faces when I talk, and I use my hands a lot, so I don't know if people are gonna be entertained with that. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, follow us on our social media. If you have any questions, comments, concern, you want a story on, you want me to read a story or talk about a story with some beautiful, colorful commentary that I do, like I usually do, shoot me an email to whattheparanormal77@gmail.com. I am getting an additional number to where y'all can text stories in, and that number's for the show. I just got to figure out how to link the number to the show, or take a call and be live. So I got to figure that out. But I have a number. I have a number that I plan on using, but it's going to be dedicated for the show only, for my podcast only, so you guys can send messages, text messages and stuff like that. But that's at a later time when I get to that level. And before we leave, I want to thank all my new subscribers, all the people who have been listening. I mean, I was at 517 listeners this morning, or downloads, and when I checked it at about 5 o'clock, I was at 538, 39 maybe. So in a short period of time, I got some more people listening to my podcast, and I want to say thank you for that. So with that being said, let us all join hands, and we are now going to close the seance room. Don't forget to keep it ghosted. If you're new to the podcast community and you want to start a new podcast and you're looking for a platform that is user friendly, that has everything you need at your fingertips, that won't set any limits, that you can earn money, then I would recommend Anchor. Now, Anchor can be used basically anywhere. You could be in your car, you can be laying on the sofa in bed where you can edit, record, and upload. You can throw in soundtracks. Everything is there for you. Now, I use it because, it's user friendly, and it is free, and I find it really easy to navigate without it being very confusing. Now, most platforms, before you can even try it out, you need to sign up and pick a plan. I like Anchor because I don't have to go through any of that. So I recommend it. Now, if you really want to get into it, I recommend you going to your website, anchor.fm, and, signing up. Or you can download anchor.fm from the Google Store, iTunes, and give it a try. So don't forget to go to anchor.fm, sign up, and I'll see you all in the podcast community.